So hi to everyone who's joining us. Please say hi in the comments section. Let us know if you're watching, where you're based and how you're doing. My name is Zoe Clark. I'm Self-Management Programme Officer here at NASS, and I'm delighted to be joined by a familiar face today. We've got Colin Beevor coming back, and he is Matron and Senior Clinical Nurse Specialist at Portsmouth Hospital. Hi Colin, how are you doing?
Hi, fine, thank you. Hope you're all well.
Good, thank you. Yeah, and hopefully lots of people watching will be familiar with your previous videos. You've done a session on managing pain and another session on TENS machines as well. So yeah, we're very grateful for you coming back for this topic, which I'm sure will be popular as well. So today's session is all about looking after yourself in the summer months and the warmer weather as well. And as I thought, certainly where I am, it's really grey and rainy today. We've had this scheduled for ages, and I thought that would be the case. We probably wouldn't have any sun during the session. How is it where you are, Colin?
So we're cloudy but warm.
Oh, that's not too bad. Might just be Norfolk.
Yes.
So for everyone watching, do let us know in the comments how you tend to find the summer and how the warmer weather affects you and your axial SpA. And also some people do find that when you have different activities and things like, you know, the children off school, if you're traveling, things like that, it can affect your axial SpA in different ways. So do let us know how you find it and pop any questions for Colin in the comments as well. After Colin's talk, then we'll have time for questions afterwards. So we'll make sure we go through everything. As always, the video will stay on the page afterwards, so you can come back and catch up anytime. And we'll also put the video and Colin's slides on My AS My Life, which I've linked to in the video description. So I think that's the main sort of intro for everyone. Colin, do you want to just introduce yourself for anyone who didn't see your previous sessions?
Yes, so I'm Colin Beevor. I'm on the medical advisory board for NASS and as a nursing representative. My experience has been in rheumatology for 25 years now. As a matron, as a clinical nurse specialist, and in Portsmouth, my role incorporates a service manager job. So I have a quite a complex role looking after rheumatology services. But I've always been interested in ankylosing spondylitis, and it's really been a quite exciting time in service delivery for AS as lots of the NASS projects are coming to fruition. So I'm pleased to be here today supporting NASS as I can.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time, especially at such a busy time as well. I do apologise if my connection's a little bit slow, I think. I think if you're happy to, Colin, we'll get started with the presentation. I'll hand over to you and then we'll come back and answer everyone's questions afterwards.
Okay, so hopefully you can see my slides now. So this was a look at summer, and throughout the year you do need to really consider how your AS may impact your quality of life depending on the seasons. There are definite fluctuations in perhaps seasonal flares. Some people may find that as they get into the spring and summer months, they're a bit more active, getting out there, doing a bit more, maybe doing some gardening, and then suddenly struggling with more pain and fatigue or elements of their AS that's affecting them. So our image of summer is often quite, we're looking forward to summer, and I know during the COVID period, everyone's been looking to this summer to be the period of time when we're perhaps going to be a bit more free to get out and about and do more. But of course, we've still got restrictions on summer travel at the moment. We're waiting, once again, as everyone knows, to hear what that may look like in the near future. But our plans for summer often are late planning. So we may find that we've got a holiday that's planned in 2 or 3 weeks' time, and then suddenly the day before the holiday, there's a rush to get things ready. And some planning may help you think about, with living with your AS, may help reduce the impact of planning for the summer period. And of course, it depends on who you are, family, whether you've got children yourself, living here, may have to consider our members of the family and how you're going to plan that busy period, schools out. As I said, you're a parent, how you're going to manage that. We're seeing this year perhaps some of the school summer clubs have not been open still. And so therefore you're relying on stuff and continue to provide that childcare during the summer months. or you may have delegated that, or you may be being delegated to be the carer of a busy grandchildren, whether it be a toddler or even a teenager. And sometimes, once again, planning and preparing for the summer is important. Whether you're a male or a female, and I don't mean to be sexist in this, you do really, once again, often people are trying to hold down busy jobs as well as busy lifestyles, as well as trying to manage the household. And what we can see is that during the summer and peak times in the year, that actually our demands on us are quite high. We may find that we get low energy because we're trying to do too much. We're trying to schedule this in with our hospital appointments. We're trying to still hold down a job and be able to enjoy a quality of life with our money that we're earning. And once again, depending on who we are and what our relationships are within families, there may be delegated tasks that are specific to you. So some people may find that they are the people during the summer, they love their garden, we enjoy our gardens, we want to get out there and do a bit of perhaps mowing the lawn or cutting the hedge. And actually that, in addition to our work and our family commitments, can once again cause a drain on our energy and maybe cause us more pain. And we want everyone's summer to be quite flat. We want a nice period. We want a nice tranquil few summer months as we enjoy the sun. We know that the sun has many benefits in addition to physical benefits of absorbing vitamin D. Absorbing vitamin D. But also we know that summer is affecting our general mood and well-being. And if we have a really bad summer with cold, wet weather, in addition to perhaps being a bit in lockdown, we may find that affects our mental health and well-being. And of course, no one can prevent flares. And those flares in turn can cause us problems with pain, low mood, fatigue. And some people, their actually ability to do what they need to do in the summer months may be impaired. And that flare period may be rocky, especially if you are new to disease and you're trying out new medications to settle the ankylosing spondylitis down, whether you're switching treatments because previous treatments haven't worked as well. One of the key things to remember is, in addition to your medication, there are lots of things out there that you can do to try and dampen that rocky period or rough period of a flare, leading up to the flare and following a flare. So what we need to always remember is there's lots of things that can be included within a self-management program of self-understanding how we are with our disease, what we've learned in the past. So if you've tried and tested something and it's worked, it's worthwhile having that ready. And we've talked about pain toolkits and that in the past, but actually trying something and realizing it worked for you, remember what you've learned and actually be prepared. Always be prepared for a bad day as well as a good day, and we'll talk about that a little later on. But also it is an opportunity within self-management, and I know NASS have done a lot around self-management. It's about, you may want to consider something new. And if you're off on holiday for a couple of weeks or you're having a bit of a break, it's whether you can try something new that may, once again, may help should you have a flare, or to keep yourself well and healthy for the rest of the year. So one of the things, and I know my physiotherapist colleagues would not like me not to mention an exercise program. Often holidays, we may find that we don't commit to our same exercise programs, especially if we're traveling away. We may not be accessing the regular groups, whether it be a NASS group or other programs of exercise. But actually to make sure that when we are out, that we don't give up on our exercise program. There may be things that you can do differently, so your timetable of exercise may change. You may want to incorporate more of the family. So if you're walking your dog, you may want to be able to once again encourage the family to come out. You might find that even with the family, you can walk a bit further, do a bit more of the exercise. Once again, you may be wanting to take the family to things like swimming classes or swimming sessions, using things like Wii Fit, cycling, or even perhaps even just buying the family a hula hoop and trying some hula hoop exercises at home to make it funny. or fun. And the other thing is, remember that even gardening and housework should be included as part of your exercise program. So if you've got something you need to do, you need to build it into your program so you're not over stretching the body by doing too much on one day. And those of you who were aware with NASS for many years, you remember that NASS got involved with caching, which is where you set up on your mobile phone this geocache, and you can then take the family out and about looking for treasures in the countryside or around cities, which once again stimulates an interest and is a fun way of exercising. The important thing is always to understand is how the seasons and how you're affected by your AS on a day-to-day basis. It's not just about the spine or joint pains, it's about whether you've got other overlapping conditions such as the inflammatory eye disease, the inflammatory bowel disease, the inflammatory skin disease. But it also can be in where you've got other things like, do you get significant fatigue associated to your AS? And once again, how you manage that during peaks and troughs of disease activity during the summer months. So one of the things that definitely happens, although we're not having too much of the hot weather at the moment, we had a few weeks ago where we saw temperatures rising. But actually some patients report that the hot weather, although for some gives them some benefit, for others they can get quite fatigued or come to the hot weather fatigue and exhaustion. So it's important with everyone to always drink plenty of cold drinks, especially if you're exercising, and whether that be in outside in the sun or indoors in a swimming pool or something like that, that you are drinking plenty of water, drinks to keep you cool. If you are struggling with the heat, taking cool baths or showers may be important, and if you're having a troublesome night sleeping with hot bedrooms, then once again perhaps taking a cool shower before you go to bed may help improve your quality of sleep, which in turn may help improve the quality of the sleep, but also prevent things like the fatigue that you may experience if you have poor quality of sleep at night. Wearing light coloured clothing stops the sun heat being generated through the clothing. We know that dark clothes you can get quite hot if you're wearing black, because the heat is transferred through the colour. Just having some of these sprays, and it's amazing when you go out and about in hot countries, they have these sprinkling systems where you can walk through to cool down. But just getting something like a squirty bottle with a fine nozzle on it, you can spray yourself with some cool water. There are some amazing adaptations out there now. I've seen people with water bottles that have got fans, as well as the option to spray some mist on them. If you are struggling during the hot weather, then try to stay out of the sun between the peak times of 11 AM and 3 PM is important, because that's when the sun is at the highest level and when the temperatures tend to be the hottest. Try not to excel in alcohol, because although alcohol may give you some hydration, the long-term effect of alcohol is it will dehydrate you, which once again can make you be more susceptible to the fatigue element. And if you are exercising, which we want you to be doing, once again, try not to do any of the extreme exercise and running in the extreme heat, which may cause fatigue. But as I said, we do want you to have exposure to the vitamin D or the benefits of the sun. So we know that you need to expose your arms and perhaps the neck and the face to sun during the course of the day to allow you to absorb enough vitamin D during the summer months that will see you through to the winter periods. We don't want people burning, we don't want their skin to burn because of the sun, but just getting out there and having some sunlight on the skin will allow you to absorb more vitamin D, which you need from over the winter periods. We know that the sun also improves quality of sleep around the hormones, and which is important. There's a melatonin hormone which is secreted overnight, and that's affected by sunlight. We know it needed for healthy eye function, and especially if we're younger or we're older. It helps to regulate the clock, or our body clock, so it's helping with things like regulate our appetite and our metabolism in foods. It boosts our mood, which once again helps with stress and also cognitive functioning. And really for those, it has other libido balance improvement as well. So it helps us maintain our relationships with our loved ones. So AS also, as I said, we don't want people to burn, so we ask people to follow the government guidance around slipping on a t-shirt or a shirt if it's very hot, or a blouse, slap on or slap on high factor sun cream to prevent burning, putting on a hat seeking shade, and also wearing sunglasses if you find it can affect your eyes. It's important to remember there are some medications that some of you may be on that may make you a bit more sun sensitive, and you may notice if you've gone out in the hot weather that you burn easier than you've ever done before, you develop rashes. So it's important to once again read your information leaflets from your drugs and just ask if, or read up and see if it causes potential higher risk of sun sensitivity. And I wasn't aware until I read some of this information for this talk that actually some of the non-steroidals also can make you more sun sensitive, which are the common drugs that you're mostly being on. There's a lot more research that needs to come out about the use of biologics therapies and sun, and also it's important to remember that some sunscreens are more effective than others. The cheaper quality tend not to last as well, but also sun cream can go out of date, and you need to make sure that the sun cream you're using is within date, so therefore it gives you the full protection. Medications is really important, especially if you're traveling abroad. And as I said, people may not be traveling abroad as much as we would like to at this time of year, but not all countries have the same medication that's available. So if you run short, you may find that you aren't able to access treatments when you're abroad, or even locally, you may only have to go over to Wales and you run out of your anti-inflammatory, or you find that your biologic has expired or been damaged in some ways. You need to make sure you have a backup plan. We often see in rheumatology services, people will panic, perhaps on the day before their holiday, and realise that they don't have sufficient medication ready for their holiday, and they're ringing up asking for emergency prescriptions to be prescribed. Now, in general, most departments and GPs need a bit of time to reorganise that medication prescription. It's not always easy to readily available. So making sure leading up to your holiday, you perhaps had a checklist where you ensure you've got enough medication to see you through the holiday, but not just for the holiday period, but also when you're back. Or should you be delayed in coming back, once again, you've got enough medication if you're stuck isolating perhaps in a different town or away. The other thing around this period of time is, as I said, we can be very busy looking after everyone else, our family. We can be busy looking after our grandchildren or other pieces. We're often at work. It's more staff are off sick, or sorry, more staff are on holiday, which once again, you end up working a lot more harder during those periods of when staff are off. But actually, to look after yourself is really important. You do need that me time. It may be the me time is 5 minutes away every day, where you can just feel that you can have a nice relaxing bath or shower. And that me time will allow you to recharge your batteries to be ready for what you need to do. And there's lots of things around me time. Lots of us are attached to the digital world. We rely on our iPhones, our iPads, and actually they can be quite stimulating. There's lots of research about how they can affect quality of sleep. And if we're plugged into these digital worlds for long periods of day during our working day or in our social lives, we may find that they have an impact on our life. We need time to exercise, to clear your head of thoughts and anxieties and worries. And you can do that by lots of ways. Call up an old friend, someone you haven't seen for some time. You'll have a quality engagement with those. Have a grown-up play date with your partner. Get out and about. enjoy things that you as a couple like. Get crafty. If you need me time and you need some headspace, just developing some crafts that you've done in the past, maybe the colouring books, or maybe a jigsaw, maybe knitting, or maybe getting out in the garden. Doing something crafty will help. Treat yourself. Look at the summer period as a time whereby you are treating yourself to perhaps review your diet and looking at a better balanced diet, treating yourself to perhaps a fresher, healthier diet. Reconnecting with your own partner, having conversation and togetherness. Take yourself out to lunch. So once again, if you find that during the summer months you don't seem to have much time to yourself, actually booking a period of time where you take yourself out to lunch on your own, maybe enjoying a magazine or a newspaper. And it may be you also upgrade your daily shower or bath with things like candles and music, relaxation. So you actually get this quality me time. Write a journal. So during the summer months, when you've got some time, is actually to write down your feelings. Think about what it's been like living with AS. Is there support that you need? Is there support that you need from your healthcare professional you're meeting? Or is it something that NASS can help with? Because NASS has a variety of resources that can help you explore how you're feeling and how you're managing your AS. Look at the stresses you face day to day, and is there anything that you can do to reduce those stresses? Look at ideas for doing things differently. Look at perhaps some short-term and long-term goals for your health, your family, and maybe it's the time to review your work, your rest, and what you're doing outside of work. And have you got any aspirations or dreams that you really want to achieve? Because a holiday break is a good time to look at that. You may have a bucket list and you may want to start to explore all those. Be always ready. So we've talked about toolkits for pain management before, but don't underestimate that actually when you're going away on holiday, you may need to review what equipment or tools you're taking should you have a flare or with your medications. So we're used to having toolkits such as sewing kits, under the sink, cleaning products, tool sheds, tool belts, where we have everything together. Should we need them, we know where to go. And we should have the same ethos around our medication, but also flares. So have you got that toolkit? So should you have a flare or AS affecting a joint? Have you got something like a tool pad? Have you got a TENS machine if you're getting more back pain? Is having those ready should you have a flare or need them. It is about also remembering that on a day-to-day basis, we don't think about what could happen, but being prepared for that and not worrying about it, but knowing and being reassured that should I have a flare, I'm ready for that flare. I have a backup plan around childcare, a backup plan. I'm going to manage that pain. I've got a backup plan if there's something important that I need to be doing. And within that plan is how you manage your medication on a day-to-day basis. You may just be taking painkillers or anti-inflammatories or your biologics, and they're managing you quite well, and you take them on a regular basis. But should you have a flare, what have you got as that backup plan? Have you found that you've tried a TENS machine in the past? Have you found that exercises or relaxation is really important? Have you tried things like heat and cold if you've got specific joint pain? What are you going to do if it's a rainy day? So once again, if we're on our own and it's a rainy day, it may be not such a problem. But if we've got to try and plan for children or grandchildren around us, it does give a bit of a problem because suddenly these children are indoors, they're wanting perhaps your attention, and trying to occupy them during a rainy day can be difficult. So I was always reminded when I had my goddaughter stay with me one day, it was a bit of a miserable day, it was a bit boring, she was fed up watching television, she was fed up playing on the iPad, and actually suddenly we got a Monopoly game out. She'd never seen Monopoly, but she absolutely loved it. For me, I didn't have to think too much about it, I just had to get out of the cupboard and play the game with her. It was quite relaxing, it was quite enjoyable. So actually at home, maybe thinking about should you have your children or your grandchildren and it's a rainy day, What are you going to do? What are you going to be able to offer them to keep them occupied so they're not necessarily demanding on you? Children's attention span may be very variable depending on their age. So the younger they are, they may need a lot more activities to keep them occupied during the course of the day or between sleeps. But as they get older, it may be that things like videos on TV does occupy them for periods of time, which allows you to get on with what you need to do. But as I said, making sure you've got some kind of backup plan, making it fun for you and the children or your family is really important. So as I said, with the previous ones, keeping up your exercise program is important. Claire Jeffries, who I work with very closely in the Portsmouth area, always remembers or reminds me to say that your exercise tablet should be, exercise should be classed as a tablet really. So you take it as you would other medication on a regular basis and ensuring that you don't neglect your exercise, which may impact on your AS down the road. There's lots of things you can do. Once again, online, there's some videos about how to exercise with the family. There's also, for those of you perhaps having a bad day, there are some sitting exercises. There is also some exercises that will help build strength, balance. They're all available on the internet. If you're unsure about an exercise program that you should be following, then once again, either use the resources that are on the NASS webpage or ask for a referral to a physiotherapist. And the other thing is, once again, to use, rather than going out and buying lots of expensive sports equipment or exercise equipment, look at what you've got in the house. So this lady's using 2 milk containers filled with water. She may start off with a low level of water, but gradually as her strength and ability, she's perhaps increased that amount of water within the bottle to increase the resistance and weights. So don't necessarily have to spend quite a lot. Once again, you could always get grandchildren to decorate the milk bottles with paper mache or with colouring to make it really interesting for your family as well. Always remember you should be able to ask for help. Now that help could be you need advice, and as I said, NASS is excellent at providing people with advice. It may be you need to ask help from your healthcare professional. Or it may be that actually you need to ask help from family and friends if you're specifically having a bad time. If you're flaring, what is your rescue plan? Not in addition to manage the flare, but actually if you've got to manage family, children's commitments, how are you going to manage that? Well, who's going to come out there and rescue you? Have you got a backup plan? What's your backup plan should your children should you not be able to go to work? You've got the children at home. Are you going to be able to manage with them with a flare? Do you need additional support from family members? And it may be that only in the rescue plan, you just need someone to pick the children up, take them around the park for a walk for an hour so you can have a rest. But have that backup plan ready. Don't worry that you can't think of what you're going to do should you need help. And the backup plan needs to be ready when you are starting to flare, but also post-flare. So if you've had a flare, once again, you need that time to regain your strength, regain quality of life, start to manage the fatigue element. So all stages of a flare need some backup plan with a support as needed. Within the backup plan, you may need advice about how to become more active and to tailor your activity in relation to how you are. If you had a bad flare, how are you going to get back to your normal level of activity and exercise? Do you need help and support around mental health? And there's been a lot of work recently, and once again saying around the COVID period, how many people have actually suffered with more mental health issues. Now, those mental health issues are not necessarily severe, but they could be anxieties and worries that you need support and advice around. Do you need more support around being healthier? Do you need to look at things like stopping smoking, weight management? Once again, there are so many resources out there that you can access these days virtually, which will help you. Do you need to keep contact, or how are you going to keep contacted with family and friends? Because that's important. And I remember a lady many years ago talked about that she was becoming more and more socially disconnected because every time she had friends asked to go out with her or do something, she felt she was a burden. So she declined more and more of social interaction. And we are a social being. We need that contact sometime to be allow us to be a healthy and functioning member of society, but also within our mental health and well-being. Also, it's important if we are looking, are we going to maintain our independency, or are we becoming more dependent on certain aspects? Are we becoming more dependent just on pain medication and we haven't reviewed self-management? And definitely during the COVID period, and we're still seeing it now, that people are struggling if they're self-employed or if they've got their own businesses and they've not been able to relaunch those businesses to their full capacity, then financial worries are causing some patients, I know, a lot of concern. Once again, seeking that support early on, and once again, I think NASS is excellent. You've got someone dedicated within NASS that can give you advice around benefits, which is really needed for some patients who are struggling at the moment. Also, although it's a bit like children, they look forward to the summer coming and they can't wait for 6 week summer holidays. But actually, suddenly as the weeks go back on or go past, they start to become a bit anxious about back to school. Some people may be looking forward to back to school, especially if you had a busy summer or holiday. You may actually want to go back to have perhaps a rest. But actually, what are your plans for going back to work? What are your plans if you've had a nasty flare? Have you had a conversation with your employer about what it may need to be considered if you've had a nasty flare and you need some time to have perhaps a phased work plan back to work? Do you need adaptations if things have changed? So once again, thinking about going back to work after the summer holidays or a break is important, especially if you've been unwell or your general concern is your health has not been as good as it has been before. And also looking at holidays or periods, what we often find is that we take long periods of holiday. You may, depending on how much holiday you're entitled to, you may find that you take them in in 2 or 3 week patterns, and therefore the amount of time you're at work is a lot longer than actually your time away. And actually reviewing a calendar of what you're planning for your holiday and maybe breaking it down, still allowing you to have perhaps long periods of holiday if you've got summer and you enjoy the summer holiday, having a 2 week period, but maybe taking long weekends or short breaks in addition, perhaps an additional Friday off or an additional Monday, so you have a long weekend, adding on a day following a bank holiday, which once again means that you may actually have more recuperation on a regular basis than waiting for long periods of time before you can recuperate for a holiday. There's lots of Sweden, I must say, Sweden and some of the Nordic countries have really started to find and research into productivity and how well we do, depending on the amount of hours we work in a week and how many days we work in a week. And they did a survey and they found that 87% of people believe that a 3-day weekend actually gave them a better quality of life, reduced their stress levels, and was better than perhaps a 2-week holiday break. So once again, looking at your holidays, looking at your working patterns, and discussing that with your employer may be important. I know some people have set holidays, definitely if you're in a factory or working for some industry, they have factory shutdowns or industry shutdowns. But how are you going to manage that if they are during peak times where you perhaps can't afford to go away or it's expensive, or actually there's not much around where you can do? So Christmas and maybe an enforced 2 or 3 week holiday is not best for you. Once again, is there anything else you could do with discussing with your employer about how they can make it better for you? So this talks, there's a very good web page about holiday snacks, what that means, what you can do, around how those holiday snacks improve your mental health and well-being, and also once again about if you actually over strenuating the body, so over a period of 10 weeks you've not had any break, it may start to affect on your quality of sleep, which once again then has an impact on your general well-being, your general mood, and maybe a contributing factor to why you're flaring. Unlimited travel. So I always think, oh yeah, I'm going to fly to, when I was able to go on a holiday abroad, oh yeah, I'll go to somewhere like France or Spain. It's only a 2-hour flight. But actually, it's always worthwhile clocking down how long you are going to be traveling. Bear in mind the time you leave home to the time that you arrive at maybe an airport or a bus station, the time you're waiting around there, the time you're actually flying, but also when you get to the other end, how long you're on perhaps a coach or other forms of travel. And actually, what looks like a 2-hour flight can still mean you're traveling up to 10 hours in the course of a day. And that will often have strenuous impact on your quality of life. It may be a contributing factor to why you've got more pain, especially if you've been sitting in a car, sitting in an airplane, sitting on a coach. And you can start to find that that may be a contributing factor to why you perhaps got more neck pain, more back pain, more hip pain, or generalized joint pain. And also the fatigue element. Don't underestimate the fatigue that you may experience if you are traveling for long periods of time. And in addition to the time, you've always got to take on board time zone changes in time. So you may lose sleep or you may gain sleep periods of time, but actually your body clock is still on UK time. I always laugh when I'm just as bad as everyone else. I fall asleep on a plane, or I fall asleep on a coach, or even in a car. And actually, if you get someone to take a picture of yourself when you're in the car, you're not often in a good position, definitely for ankylosing spondylitis. If you're causing a bit of a twist in the spine and your neck stuck in a position on a pillow, it may contribute to more joint pain. Also, if you're on things like a plane, leg room, you can't necessarily stretch. Some airplane companies charge you more for the extra room space, so you may be able to stuck. So it's important to look and plan for that. Can you get up regularly on the flight to have a walk around? Can you if you're traveling by car, can you put in breaks whereby perhaps every every hour that you're having a break at a public stop where you can get out, stretch your legs, go to the toilet, refresh yourself with some hydration. Also, the biggest thing is when we are going away from our home, our beds may feel like planks of wood and may be really uncomfortable. And how are you going to manage that? If you are away for a fortnight, the bed's uncomfortable, you'll find that you're getting increasing neck pain or increasing back pain. What sort of things have you got ready should you experience those? And it's not just the bed, it can also be the pillows. We all get used to our own pillow, and actually when we go away, if we've got suddenly a pillow that feels like a brick, it can cause more problems with our neck. And these all contribute to often more pain. And when you've got that cycle of more pain, you may not sleep so well, so you may get more fatigue. And when you get more fatigue, you may once again experience more pain. So looking at every element of your travel during a holiday period is important. Look at the position you are in. Are there things that you can do to improve your position? So have you got pillows that you may need to take? Have you got neck supports? The cushions that you can wrap around your neck to actually support the neck is really, really important. And don't underestimate, once again, if you are on a long haul flight anywhere, if you're able to get there, but actually you do need to get up and walk around so the blood doesn't pool in your legs. That puts you at risk of things such as deep vein thrombosis. If you are at risk of that, then you need to once again maybe talk to your GP about treatment such as maybe low dose aspirin before a flight, during the flight and after the flight, or even travel socks to prevent your risk. So my last few slides really is about what is your plan depending on how you feel. I always talk about things like a red traffic light system. So what are you going to do on a bad day? So what is your plan? What's your backup plan for a bad day? What's your backup plan if you're having a moderate day? So maybe you can do some of the things that you tire easily or find you're in pain quite a lot. And what are you going to do on a good day? And what often happens is that on a good day, we try and catch up everything we didn't do on a bad day. And that then contributes to perhaps the following day being a particularly bad day. So bad days, what you're going to do for a flare, how you're going to manage that pain, how you're going to manage the fatigue. And as I said, especially if you've got family or commitments that you need to undertake. What you can do on a moderate day is it may be that you just got a slight flare starting or your pain has increased. And the worrying thing is if you don't do something now, you may move into a full flare quite quickly. So are there things that you can do to prevent a flare becoming a full-fledged flare, which impacts on your quality of life? And as I said, on a good day, try to invest those good days in things that you enjoy, going out with a family, and using that time, a good day, not just for things that you need to catch up on, but about treating yourself and looking after me. I always talk about, once again, what you're doing differently on a good day to a bad day. Are you using the same medication, or are you tailoring your medication to how you're feeling? Are you tailoring and adding in other things, maybe topical anti-inflammatory creams, heat and cold, distraction therapy if it's a milder pain, through to if it's the worst pain, have you considered things like a TENS machine, once again, heat and cold, additional medications that you may need to add in? And having that discussion with your healthcare professional and your physiotherapist, definitely around exercise, what you should do at different levels, is important. Remember, summer out does need a bit more planning. My mum was very good. She always had a checklist. So before the summer holidays, things that she needed to do. If we were going away, once again, she thought about that at least a month and ahead. Sometimes she would start packing the bags a month ahead by putting the suitcases on a back bedroom and adding things as she bought them or she ticked them off the list. So living with any long-term condition does perhaps mean that you do need to think a bit more around planning for that. And the important thing is that actually, is your pain taking you on holiday or are you taking your pain on holiday? So for some people, the pain may determine what you're going to be able to do and not be able to do. And it's actually a mindset. It's actually about recognizing that you have pain, but you still want to have a quality summer and a summer holiday. So hopefully that was useful. There's lots of things I could talk about, but I'm happy to take questions through Facebook or through your comments to Zoe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was so information packed. We've got lots of people watching as well, so I think it's been really helpful for everyone. So I mentioned when we were chatting before we went live that we'd already had a question in from Denise talking about swollen fingers and toes in the hot weather. I know you sort of touched on that a little bit in the session, but is there any other information particularly for swollen joints in the heat?
It is very difficult. Lots of people do report that actually during the summer months, the joints do become more painful and more swollen. Now, the key things is to keep yourself cool. So we talked about that with the heat exhaustion, is to actually keep yourself cool, keep yourself hydrated. Now, that will help the body eliminate any potential inflammation that's going or help with any inflammation. It will help you keep hydrated, which will help in the long term. Things like supportive gloves are useful. I personally have got osteoarthritis of the hands that I find really painful during the hot weather. But actually for me, the pressure gloves don't work, but for other people, they may find it does work. So it's about trial and error around if you are experiencing that. If things aren't being relieved with keeping yourself hydrated, keeping your hands moving as well. Sometimes if it's painful, we tend to try and protect the joints, but actually doing a good range of movement, encouraging that circulation in the hand is really useful. And we've worked with our occupational hand therapists, and we've got an information sheet if anyone wants it on some exercises around the hand to keep the hand function good, but also keep that circulation going in the hands. And I'm happy to share that with you, Zoe.
That'd be really helpful, thank you. We can pop the link on our website as well. Wonderful. You'll be happy to hear Gillian is watching as well. So Gillian says,
hello, Gillian.
Who says thank you for everything you're doing for the AS community as well, which I definitely agree with.
Thank you, Gillian.
We haven't got any other particular questions coming in yet, so for anyone watching, please do pop any questions in the comments. We did have a comment from Jane where she shared that as you're talking about medication, she'd found that she hadn't realised that leflunomide can make you sensitive to the sun, and she
Yes.
ended up with a rash that lasted quite a few months. So thanks, Jane, for sharing that with everyone, because it's easily done, unfortunately, isn't it?
And especially if you start a new medication during the winter periods where you're not out in the sun, and then suddenly the sun hits and you think, oh, I'm going to go out and about, and then you've got a rash, or you burn easily. It can put you back quite quickly. So I always say that we're really bad at it. We should read, and I've just started some new medication, and I definitely haven't read everything, but actually taking time to read the key factors and making sure there isn't a risk around sun sensitivity is important, because the last thing we want to do, definitely, if you're going on biologics, are things like sunburns that may predispose you to getting skin cancers. So it's important to look at that.
Absolutely, yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you. Had another comment from Gillian saying she wished she had a Colin in Bromley. If only we could clone you.
I think it's important for all patients with long-term conditions to really build. It's a two-way street. It's about you engaging with the department, making sure that you're saying is there anything you can do for the department. And I know Gillian's so pro NASS. She does so much for NASS, and she hasn't got any more time or energy to do that. But actually, it is a two-way street. The more the patients engage with their healthcare professionals and actually build that rapport with their nurse specialist or their specialist physiotherapist, so they feel confident to raise the important issues. And often when you come to an appointment, we can ask you so many questions, and you will leave the waiting or leave the department and then suddenly think, I forgot to ask this really important thing, and actually you then put it off to the next appointment, or you may forget again. So being prepared for your appointment, I know you've done some work around preparing for appointment, and definitely in this era of virtual appointments, it's important that you are ready for your appointments. You ask the questions that are key to you, and you've got a plan forward.
Absolutely, and again, I can share that link with everyone as well. We've got a resource sheet that you can use to actually help you prepare ahead of your appointment, and to make notes during the appointment as well, so that you remember everything that you discussed.
And sometimes even asking the family members, because often family members will say, well, Mum, did you ask about that? Or Dad, did you ask about that? And say to them, well, I'm going to an appointment in a couple of weeks' time. Is there anything you think I've forgotten to ask, or I need to ask about my AS or my medications? Is really key, because we can often have conversations with our family members, but at the time of the appointment, we've forgotten what the question we had, or we've forgotten what we wanted to ask. So be prepared, write notes. Some services are quite happy for you to perhaps even to email in your questions, so you don't even ever have to a consultation. You can just email in your concern or question. But once again, there is lots of resources. I mustn't forget to say that NASS have got such a good resource of information that actually lots of the answers are actually within the NASS web pages as well.
Absolutely, and anyone can give our helpline a call as well. It's Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. So yeah, we're always on hand to help when we can.
Yes.
Wonderful. We've got a couple of thank yous coming in. Jane and Sam say thank you. Sammy said it's the first time watching a live from NASS and found it very informative. So thank you so much, Colin. I don't know if you have any final thoughts you wanted to share.
I think my final thoughts is it's a difficult year this year, and we may be thinking about next year's holidays, as we may see things get locked down, comes less and less of a problem. So start to plan for your holidays next year. I know people have talked about, well, if once the lockdown's out, they're going to fly to Australia. Remember, Australian flights are not good for AS in one haul, or even in two short hauls. You can be traveling 36 hours plus if you're traveling to the airport, traveling when you get the other side. And actually, if you're in airplanes for long periods of time, it can make AS quite bad. You can suffer quite a lot of pain and discomfort. And it may be that when you get the other side of when you get to your destination, rather going into a full-flown family holiday where you're spending lots of time with family and friends in the country, that actually you have a couple of days recuperation built in, so you aren't suddenly going into a strenuous full-packed holiday.
That's really
but enjoy summer. I mean, hopefully we'll get a few more better summer days, but I just want everyone to take advantage of the good weather, but also enjoy it as well.
Absolutely, and yeah, your tips have been really helpful. I think that will help people really plan around it and ensure that they can enjoy it as much as possible while managing their axial SpA as well. So thank you.
That's all right.
Wonderful. So for everyone watching, I'll keep an eye on the comments over the next couple of days as well. So if you have any questions for Colin, I can hand them over to him if you don't mind, Colin.
No, not at all.
Wonderful, thank you. And as always, the video will stay on the page here on Facebook, and we'll also upload it to My AS My Life with Colin's slides as well, which he's kindly shared with us. And just for your info, next week our session is on Thursday, that's the 8th of July, and I'll be joined by our Chief Executive, Dr. Dale Webb, and we'll be talking all about the Acton Axial SpA campaign and the launch of the Gold Standard programme. So please do join us for that, and be ready to ask your questions all about the programme. So once again, thank you so much, Colin. It's been really great to see you with us, and hopefully we'll see you in a sort of winter-themed session next. I think we're planning.
Fantastic. Good luck, everyone. Have a nice holiday.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. Take care, everyone, and see you next time.